My friend Jimmy died of cancer in January. I hadn't seen him in person in over 10 years, and face-to-face contact does not define friendship, though. There are plenty of people I consider friends, whom I've never met. But even saying that out loud sounds a little funny. There are people I speak to regularly on the internet, and when I meet them, I still say, "Nice to meet you," or "Nice to meet you in person." What defines meeting someone? A handshake, physical contact, physical sight? Why does that matter? A sense of validity? Must we scrutinize the friendship in physical form? Are we friends? Let us examine what friendship looks like when we occupy the same space. Friendship has changed a lot in my lifetime, but what hasn't changed is how lonely I feel all the time. Even with friends available to me at my fingertips, even with friendships occupying the same space in person, it never feels enough. And I've never understood why. About a month after I learned Jimmy died, I found him in my Twitter account while cleaning out my follower list. This wasn't a responsive thing. In fact, I hardly ever do it, maybe once a year. I wasn't thinking I would find Jimmy there. He hadn't had much time to tweet since he'd gotten sick, but scrolling through the list, deciding who to digitally keep versus digitally discard, there was his handle, Jimmy_B43. His avatar, a black and white picture of Timothy Carey. Take a second here. If you don't know what he looks like, Google Timothy Carey's name, or even better, run a Google image search. He has a face you won't forget. Jimmy's favorite movie was Paths of Glory. Timothy Carey has a part in that as a doomed French soldier unjustly tried for cowardice. In one scene, a fellow soldier, also set to be executed, complains that a cockroach crawling around their cell will soon have more connection to his family than he will. Carey crushes the bug and sneers.
Now you got the edge on him.
You got the edge on him.
The day after finding Jimmy listed among my Twitter following, I taught my 20th century history class, where a student named Keaton gave a presentation about Margaret Sanger, the birth control advocate. In Keaton's PowerPoint, he displayed a picture of Sanger standing in the center of a circle of Klansmen, arms raised, carrying torches. From there, he gave a passionate dismissal of Sanger as nothing more than a crazed eugenicist, a white supremacist obsessed with eliminating impure races in classes via her attempts to normalize the use of contraception. The image chilled me. All the people were outside, yet Sanger was standing on this tiny table. She was reading a speech, and all the Klansmen were raising their right arms in salute. I paused Keaton's presentation. I think this might be a good time to get into a lesson on information technology, I said as politely as I could. And then I asked Keaton to show me where he'd found the picture. He shrugged, looking confused, so I right-clicked the image and searched for the original source. The result was a shifty-looking website hosting a far-right Photoshop competition promising prizes for whomever could create the most believably disparaging image of Sanger. I clicked through other entries and discussed this phenomenon with my students, explaining why groups would still target Sanger's image in this manner 100 years after she began her work in earnest. What do you guys think of this?
I don't know.
One student said from the back of the room.
Seems pretty real to me.
For some reason, the only thing I could think of was Jimmy, his digital avatar on Twitter. Jimmy as @Jimmy_B43. Jimmy as a black and white still of Timothy Carey. The last time I corresponded with Jimmy was when he sent me a bootleg Timothy Carey movie in the mail, The World's Greatest Sinner from 1962. It was a pet project for the actor. I sent Jimmy a thank you card in response. I didn't watch the movie immediately after he sent it. Didn't watch it until the night after Keaton gave his presentation in class. I found myself back on Jimmy's Twitter, obsessing over his final tweet, which was a complete mystery to me.
James Balfour @Jimmy_B43, 17 January 2020. Still searching for the perfect sentence.
I searched Twitter for a perfect sentence, then broadened my search to Google and tried to find one. There were 125 million potential results that populated in approximately 0.47 seconds. Blogs, how-to manuals, literary magazines, writers, editors, scholars, and artists. I did not read them all, but kept a journal of potential keepers. I wrote down dozens of examples. I stayed up all night, emulating the last words of my dead friend, a sad little seance. Nothing seemed right. Nothing seemed perfect or even close to satisfactory. Plenty of well-constructed sentences, moving passages, clever wordplay, stirring phrases. But what was perfect? How would I know if I found it? What was Jimmy's idea of perfection? We'd never know, but we'd always have his last haunting, impossible charge. Find this. Find a perfect sentence. It would occupy the page and physical space and neutralize my loneliness when I thought of the phrase, bringing light into a dark room when I speak it out loud. I think it would make me laugh and then weep. Tragic in its perfection, the meaning it conveys in its sublime construction, setting eyes and ears aflame, too divine to convey, too exact to consume. It would change every time I read it or heard it aloud. Not just the meaning, but the actual sound, language. The words would age like trees, slowly thickening with decades of steady change, inner rings of meaning marking their growth. Its construction would blossom like a flower stretching for the sun, pushing into fertile soil to soak up the rain before eventually wilting out of existence, petals of stylistic elements falling away, revealing a lying simplicity that conceals a structure too good to last. It would be alive. It would have a heart that shook the sounds of its words with every beat. It would breathe in vowels and exhale consonants. Its punctuation would be playful but precise, the deliberate violent slash of a hyphen, the divisive contrast of a semicolon, the eloquent finality of a period. Period.
Immanuel Kant. Kant reasoned with it. 19 March, 1788. Two things fill the mind with ever-increasing wonder and awe. The starry sky above me, and the moral law within me.
I spent hours looking for the perfect sentence before I gave up and decided to look for something tangible instead. I turned my basement upside down until I found the bootleg copy of The World's Greatest Sitter in a shoebox with some high school yearbooks, a collection of movie tickets, and strips of paper pulled from fortune cookies, slipped between yearbook pages like bookmarks. With this text like it's his body, like it's going to wake up and shout, what are you doing? Like it's going to wake up and shout, what are you doing? I mean, come on, like it's his body, like it's going to... The fortune read, you enjoyed the meal so much, you will buy one to go too. Two is misspelled T-O. Yeah, that detail's really important. Jimmy had pulled the fortune from a cookie as we were finishing up our fried rice midnight snack after a late movie. We cracked up at the fortune so much we decided to buy a meal to go. I kept the fortune from the cookie from the to-go meal. It read, tied into more through saying, not tied into more through saying, more plausible. Says more through saying, our deeds determine us as much as we determine our deeds.
The starry sky above me.
Our friend Mandy pulled a simpler fortune from her cookie that night. She made me take it because she hated it so much. Beware the poor financial decisions you will soon make.
I don't have any money. I can't afford that fortune.
A few days after eating our Chinese, I took my grocery store paycheck and tossed it in Jimmy's fireplace, thinking it was a bill from Columbia House, the mail-order compact disc pyramid scheme. I fished my paycheck out with salad tongs and cashed it at work the next day, half burnt, my manager giving me the stink eye, Jimmy cracking up behind me the whole time.
Beware the financial decisions you will soon make. Oh, come on.
Do fortune cookies contain perfect sentences? Is the one Mandy gave me about financial decisions closer to perfection because it came true? She opened it, they gave it to me. Is that truth, or did she curse me? Something that's both true and false. Is that perfect? Is that a curse?
Our deeds determine us as much as we determine our deeds. I think that's about choice.
Jimmy chose to select Timothy Carey for his Twitter avatar. Mandy chose to give me her fortune. Mandy chose to break up with Jimmy when she was a junior. Then she chose to stop being friends with me soon after because I was friends with Jimmy. Years later, I chose not to visit Jimmy at MGH when he was dying.
The starry sky above me.
His family is there. I thought, I'll be in the way. It's been such a long time. He's gonna get better.
The moral law within me.
These two choices we made merged into an unlikely ghost. The glowering, sneering black and white avatar of Timothy Carey. An inconsequential choice. Maybe even a flighty one. He'll be there for a couple more weeks, I thought. I've got time. Stars to gaze into and my own moral law to awe me. Timothy Carey sneered like he knew he'd haunt you before he even died. Margaret Sanger always looked calmer, more at peace. Even in the doctored images where she's giving a fascist salute to members of the Ku Klux Klan. There are 43 Twitter accounts named after the real Margaret Sanger. All of them use different public black and white photographs of her as their avatars. 5 of them honor her work with women and families in choice. 38 do not.
The lingering image of Margaret Sanger is that of a baby
The
killer.
lingering image of Margaret Sanger is of an advocate for the family, for women's reproductive rights, for contraception, for the health and well-being of mothers and families.
The lingering image of Margaret Sanger was presented by Keaton in my history class, raising her arm, surrounded by white-cloaked Ku Klux Klan members, holding fiery torches. She's holding up a text. One of her books calls for the necessity of eugenics.
The lingering image of Margaret Sanger is a black and white drawing, her features exaggerated and grotesque, administering an abortion while dressed in a Nazi
The lingering
uniform.
image of Margaret Sanger is a woman who wouldn't tolerate bigotry on her staff and received praise and support from Martin Luther King Jr. and W.E.B. Du Bois, the latter of whom served on the board of her Harlem clinic.
The lingering image of Margaret Sanger is a woman being seduced by a rockabilly version of Timothy Carey in an unused publicity still from The World's Greatest Sinner.
All of these lingering images remain of Margaret Sanger. Some are true, and some are not. And some are complicated mixtures of half-truths and blatant lies. There are millions of lingering images of Margaret Sanger, many of them real, many of them fake. Words misunderstood, taken out of context, misappropriated, photographs chopped and crudely edited, photoshopped to disparage her reputation and the work she accomplished in her life. In 1961, Margaret Sanger met Timothy Carey on the set of The World's Greatest Sinner. The movie's plot revolves around a former insurance salesman named Clarence Hillard who quits his job to become a musician. His musical performances are so powerful, he's able to seduce elderly women and rob them blind, eventually becoming a religious figure, naming himself God Hillard. He believes every human being possesses the potential to be God, and that paradise is possible on Earth, and that men can live eternally. He starts a political party, the Eternal Man Party, and eventually runs for president. At the end of the film, he challenges the biblical Almighty to a duel, which goes about as well as you'd expect. Timothy Carey wanted Margaret Sanger to play one of the elderly women Clarence seduces in the film. He offered to support her contraception costs for compensation. She was 81 years old.
Why me?
When Carey spoke, his lips moved, but his teeth were still closed.
Baby killing witch?
I don't believe in abortion.
Maybe not, but a whole lot of people think you are the world's greatest sinner. I want to take that image right out from under you. Make it mine.
Sanger obliged, already wondering about her legacy, already suspecting that her lingering image would split into thousands of them, millions of different Margaret Sangers based on all the possibilities of how people would view her life's work. Might as well give the bastards something they'd never expect. Throw them off balance. She was beyond the world's greatest sinner status by that point. She was destined to become the antithesis of truth. She was Legion. In 1961, during the middle of their love scene, Margaret Sanger vamped for the camera, then leaned over to whisper into Timothy Carey's ear.
I wish I never accepted the support of the eugenicists. That's all they'll talk about when I'm dead. That's all I'll be, a racist white supremacist.
Carey grinned and his black bushy eyebrows sunk into his face. He caressed Sanger's cheek and kissed up and down her neck.
You better believe they'll remember this.
Few do. The movie barely received an official release and was never released on home video. Carey re-edits it constantly until his death in 1994, creating a dozen different cuts. The fact that Margaret Sanger is featured in the film is a small historical curio, known only by a small subset of film historians and movie nerds. After their scene wrap, the crew applauded for Margaret, and Carey invited her to dinner.
Do you have any regrets?
Carey ripped into his T-bone steak and waited until his mouth was full, grinning through his chew.
I wish I would have been more religious.
Do you believe in God?
Nah, but I think religion would have done me good.
In May of 1994, my friend Jimmy shared a cigarette with me behind the JCPenney where he worked part-time and asked me if I believed in God. I said I wasn't sure. I said I used to, but lately I had a lot of doubt. Jimmy said,
If he is real, then I bet it's some sort of thing we could never understand. Something truly infinite, so why try? We're just gonna fuck it up.
About a month later, Jimmy and I rented The Last Temptation of Christ.
I like how Jesus is just a normal guy in this. And like how Judah is just his friend. Like, dude, don't be an idiot. Don't die for nothing. Stick around.
Dear Jesus, do something.
Christ doesn't martyr himself, he just pretends to for our amusement.
Nothing has ever really happened until it's been recorded.
Who's afraid of Virginia Woolf?
It is not love of truth.
Who's afraid of Virginia Woolf?
But desire to prevail.
Who's afraid of Virginia Woolf?
That sets quarter against quarter.
Who's afraid of Virginia Woolf? Virginia Woolf, Virginia Woolf.
And makes parish desire the downfall of parish.
Who's afraid of Virginia Woolf?
Virginia Woolf.
Jordan McKenzie, at McJord, July 23rd, 2020. Why did Rome fall? Wrong answers only.
Why did Rome fall? Because I pushed them.
Rome wasn't looking where it was going.
Rome fell because someone tripped it.
Cat knocked it off the shelf.
Rome fell because summer was over, so it had to fall.
Gladiators kneeling during the Roman national anthem.
They invaded Russia in the worst winter in 100 years.
You know Rome.
It never got built in a day.
Are you not entertained?
Poor foundation hastily laid.
They built the city on rock and roll.
They built the city on rock and roll.
Rome fell because
incredible
democratization
of small governors.
Structured right.
Cat knocked it off the shelf.
So it could learn to pick itself up.
Rome fell because it took so long to
Simply
build.
a stable centre.
They built the city on rock and roll.
Fiddlers played
TikTok.
on
People visiting
Rome fell
Rome
because someone took
kept
it.
doing as the Rome
Rome fell because
Fires.
Nero's
Mars
So
person,
person,
woman,
woman,
man,
Rome. People visiting Rome kept doing as the road
A spark from Nero's fires hit the fiddles. The fiddlers played on as they burned alive, and soon so did the city.
We all heard the flood raging and calling.
We all heard the flood raging and
But
calling.
no one agreed how it was falling.
We all heard the flood
No one
raging
agreed
and
how it was
calling.
falling.
raging and
No one agreed how it was falling.
No one agreed how it was
But no
falling.
one agreed how it was falling.
We all heard the flood raging and calling. But no one agreed how it was falling.
No one agreed how it was falling.
Vladimir Nabokov at Butterfly Catcher 99. 12th September 1962. Dear Jesus, do something.
Rome. That's where Jimmy lived. Rome, New York, home to a military Air Force base and a drive-in movie theater that broadcasts our soundtracks on AM radio. Sometimes when Jimmy and I drove around town, we'd turn the dial to the station and listen to out-of-context scenes. Jimmy and I sold marked-up water bottles sitting at a table on the path into Woodstock 99. Later that night, we watched it go up in flames, first on TV, then distantly from the view of his back deck. It feels like something more meaningful now than it did back then. Back then, it just felt like a foregone conclusion. Now, it feels like foreshadowing, Rome burning, and all that.
Even as I hold you, I am letting you go.
I grew up about 30 minutes west of Rome. My town was in the middle of nowhere. There's literally a boulder on the outskirts with a placard informing visitors they're in the direct center of New York State. So when I say the middle of nowhere, I mean it. So many people I grew up around always seem so angry. New York is a big state, but the city gets all the lights, all the money too, if you ask anyone north of Westchester County. Everyone hates paying for a city they don't live in, so they let that resentment fester. It's hard to know if it always looked the way it does now, or if I just grown used to it by growing up with it all around me. I go back now and it's like I'm wearing glasses from They Live.
Remember when we watched that together?
Except instead of subliminal messages from world-dominating aliens, I see clearly the festering black cancer of white poverty. Long stretches of main roads littered with foreclosures, highways adorned with boarded-up businesses, a filthy sign featuring a smiling cartoon waitress for a shuttered diner.
Welcome to our ool.
A pool supply store.
Notice there is no P in it.
The sign missing the P.
Please keep it that way.
Rundown homes, a seafood restaurant made to look like a boat with a caved-in roof, advertisements for Turning Stone Casino, teepees with colored neon lights inside next to the turnpike.
The moral law within me.
Our deeds determine us as much as we determine our deeds. The Fortune bookmarked a page in my yearbook. There was an inscription filled with inside jokes and a signature from Jimmy. Never passed the baton. That was the final line. Then, jam forever. Jam forever. Carved into a tree in Robertson Park, signed into an old yearbook, scraped into a desk at Mohawk Valley Community College. Letters, words, symbols with meaning but not real. Just useless marks filled with hope written by a young man who is now dead. From cancer, real cancer, not the white poverty kind.
Trees can be contorted, bent in weird ways, but still beautiful.
Being from different towns, Jimmy hadn't gone to my high school. I met him in Japanese class. My broke-ass high school didn't offer Japanese, but for some reason I was obsessed with Japan. So when this special program offered to shuttle a select group of students to a nearby community college for Japanese, social studies, and English, I jumped at the chance. Jimmy didn't go to my high school, but as soon as we met, I knew I wanted to be friends with him. He wore a backwards golf cap that actually looked good on him, and hair parted in the middle, curly, long, and cool. He was friendly and welcoming, easy to talk to, unlike most guys my age. I didn't have a lot of male friends. I didn't have many friends at all, honestly, but to be a friend with a young man at this time, at my high school, meant you needed to ridicule other young men, constantly, and usually regarding their sexual orientation. Even supposed friends, maybe even especially supposed friends. So there were 3 other students from my high school who rode the bus to Japanese class, posted at the closest community college. One of them was Mandy. She was a fairly popular girl in high school, but she knew me because we lived close to each other. She was always friendly to me, but we became friends during the bus ride to MBCC. And then, a few months after starting the program, she and Jimmy started dating. It happened fast, just like my developing friendships with both of them. They never made me feel like a third wheel. They never went on dates, just the 2 of them, except for Jimmy's prom. It was always the 3 of us, Jimmy, me, and Mandy. Jam forever. I love them so much. And I believe they love me too. In fact, Jimmy was the first man who ever told me he loved me, something my father hadn't managed to do at that point in my life. Jimmy would call me on the phone just to talk. And I would tell Jimmy about the baton. One time, Jimmy called and he could tell I was upset. I Okay, I used to do this thing where I acted out this silly fantasy world in my room with a baton that was sort of a lightsaber laser gun hybrid. I'd put on mixes, songs taped off the radio, and imagine whole stories filled with colorful characters set in this dramatic sci-fi fantasy world I created. It's silly, yes, but harmless. One day, my father came in and saw me doing this. My music was cranked in UFO-sized headphones. I didn't know he was there. And then he made sure I knew he was there. Everything about him was loud. He didn't speak that often, but his silence was thunderous. He worked odd hours. I don't know what he thought of me, but no matter what, he didn't understand me. Didn't understand why I was doing what I was doing. But I think it scared him. I think looking back, I scared him just as much as he scared me. He ordered me to stop. And when I could only stare at him in response, stunned and embarrassed about being caught in the act of complete fantasy, he slapped me. I guess he wanted to make sure I understood. He told me I was too old for this. Imagine that. Too old to pretend. An hour later, Jimmy called, and I didn't want to tell him what happened. I was afraid he'd judge me too. About 2 hours after I got off the phone, Jimmy and Mandy showed up at my door. We took a walk near Robertson Park, which is close to my home. They didn't pry. They waited. And then I told them what happened. And they hugged me. And they asked me about my silly little fantasy world, but not in a teasing way, in a way that they showed me that they were interested, that they cared. So I told them everything. I told them there were characters I created in honor of them, a trio of heroes trying to fight for some light in a world of darkness. Jimmy took out his pocket knife and we each carved our first initial into a sycamore tree. Jimmy topped it off with forever underneath. And then we went to get Chinese.
The more I wonder, the more I love.
An hour after Chinese food, Jimmy pulled me aside and leaned in close. I thought he might kiss me. His breath smelled like stale cigarettes and soy sauce. He looked me square in the eyes.
Don't give it up. Don't pass the baton, you know?
Isn't it pretty to think so?
In May of 1994, my friend Jimmy shared a cigarette with me behind the JCPenney where he worked part-time and asked me if I believed in God.
There's no JCPenney's anymore. Not after this year. Next year. These years.
After work, sometimes we'd go to the movies and then China Pearl to talk and smoke.
Why did we smoke so much?
When China Pearl closed, we'd walk to Chimney's to rent a stack of tapes, 5 for $5 special. We'd ask the clerk for something weird. Movies with secrets other films silenced. The clerk would point to the cult section. We'd stay up late watching cult films between cigarette breaks.
Evil Dead.
Death Race 2000.
Basket Case.
Miss 45.
Miss 45. Black Christmas.
Black Christmas. They Live. The Hitcher.
On June 17th, 1994, Jimmy and I rented and watched The Last Temptation of Christ.
It is accomplished.
And the film itself seemed to burn his image out of existence as life fades from the almighty martyr's eyes. It's powerful in part because it's fake. A trick upon a trick, a performance upon a performance. The film doesn't burn. We were watching a tape. There is no film. There was never a film to us. There was a film when it was originally released, but the burning was part of the film. It didn't burn in the projector. It was an effect. Jesus was an actor. It was all an act.
Dear Jesus, do something.
Christ doesn't martyr himself. He just pretends to. Or maybe this is how we know he doesn't really die. That his death is just rebirth. It's all a performance. It's death for our amusement, for us to witness as spectators. The film burns in the projector, but it doesn't. The Son of God dies, but he doesn't. All our sins are resolved, but
They're not.
I asked Jimmy what he thought of the end of the film. He chuckled.
Kinda wanna know what would have happened if he never died. If he just lived that fantasy. I mean, take the thing at face value. His fantasy, his last temptation, it's just him being a carpenter and having a family with Mary Mags. That's all of us, right? Like, that's just a life. He died so we could all fuck around and have that? Is the message that we should all follow his example or embrace his sacrifice and live the life he couldn't? Who can say? But everyone does, with certainty.
He paused for a second, as if he was surprised at how angry he was becoming.
Poor guy deserved a regular life.
During that same moment in Los Angeles, O.J. Simpson was being pursued by the police in the infamous white Bronco chase. We knew of O.J. more from the Naked Gun movies than anything else. But it felt like we needed to watch. The coverage itself underlined its importance. 37 days earlier, also in Los Angeles, Timothy Carey was dying from a stroke. VHS as a rental platform was also dying. And 22 years later, they produced the last Hollywood film on video cassette, A History of Violence. I wonder if Jimmy ever saw A History of Violence. I wonder what he'd think of it. I wonder if he'd ever touched a VHS copy knowing it was the last of its kind. Many believe Twitter is also dying. What will the last recorded tweet be? Will it be from its narcissistic new owner, so enamored with himself that he's never looked inward with any honesty? How does anyone review their life and find no faults? When Margaret Sanger died in 1966, she clutched her heart and whispered Peggy, the name of her 5-year-old daughter who died in 1915 of complications stemming from pneumonia and infant paralysis. She felt whole as she passed into death. Complete.
It is accomplished.
She felt the ghost of her daughter embrace her. Peggy's thin arms wrapped around her bony knees, the highest point Peggy could reach when she was alive, standing unsteadily on one good leg, the other ravaged from polio, bouncing up and down, begging Margaret to pick her up. Sanger felt time unspool around her, becoming meaningless. She felt stretched thin and divided, as if she was an infinite cake constantly carved.
What is this?
She wondered and tried to claw back to the peace she'd initially felt in death. Pieces of her kept being removed and reshaped, and she watched them claw through the dirt surrounding her coffin, watched them slip away from her forever. After Carey died, he felt a similar phenomenon as Sanger, but it took less time and there were fewer divisions. All of them similar in appearance. Sleazy, lazy-eyed, voice low and gravelly-like words were putting up a fight on the way out of his mouth. One version pours beer into the face of Marlon Brando. Another gets stabbed with a pen by Eli Kazan. Another embraces John Cassavetes on the set of Minnie and Waskowitz. Another shoots Francis Ford Coppola with blanks during an audition.
I pissed a lot of people off.
One division says in an interview published online,
I don't hold in my farts. It's not good for you keeping all that inside. I don't feel like being a hypocrite, so I let it all out. Everything, gas included. People don't like that, and I end up getting fired sometimes.
Why are you so crude, anyway?
Margaret Sanger asked Timothy Carey during the lunch one day on the set of The World's Greatest Sinner.
It's not just me. People. People are crude. I just act like I am. I don't dress nothing up because then I'd just be some idea from someone else.
But you're an actor. You get paid to act like an idea from someone else.
See, that's how I'm so good at it. I can see the difference. Most people, they walk around worried all the time. Everyone is a director to them. Nobody tells them what to do, how to behave. Not outright, not with words. At the same time, everybody does. Everything does. Think about it. Think about if you didn't have to fight so hard for your cause your whole life. Wouldn't that be easier? You have to pretend all the time, even with your work. This is healthier. This is safer. Better for people. We get rid of less pores this way, right? Less undesirables like me. They still fight you. For what? For the sake of decency. What's that but some idea looking like a fresh suit from some stuffy old money bore?
George Bernard Shore, at the G. Burney Shore. The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place.
Decency is indecency's conspiracy of silence. Also, GBS.
When Carey died, he smiled, finding peace in the idea that he'd continue to piss people off in the afterlife. Life was eternal after all, the Eternal Man Party being something he created in the world's greatest sinner, in both his performance and real life. Versions of himself would offend people indefinitely as long as they could be watched and heard. He wished he could still fart in public. As he died, he thought about the times he'd farted during filming, wondering how many farts ended up in the final cuts. Maybe some of the silent ones. Those farts will live forever, he thought, and grinned and felt perfectly fine being dead. The night I found Jimmy among my Twitter followers, I couldn't stop staring at Carey in his avatar, looking crazed and swinging an axe, cropped from a publicity still from Poor White Trash. Why this? How did this represent Jimmy? How did it represent him in life? In death? I stared at the image, at the accompanying handle, Jimmy_B43.
Now, you got the edge on him.
When Jimmy died, he felt peace. When Jimmy died, he felt...
Franz Kafka, at FranziCath, 3rd of June, 1924. The meaning of life is that it stops.
Beware of false knowledge. It is more dangerous than ignorance. G.D. motherfucking Shaw.
James Joyce at Sunny Jim Hair Satan, 2nd February 1922. I was a flower.
When I think of you, I think of her hands squeezing my face, and now that I'm older, I wonder if it's because she was making sure I couldn't tell where you were or what you were doing, but at the same time, it felt like passion. It felt like something that would never end. Yes, the big lie.
I was a flower of the mountain, yes. When I put the rose in my hair, like the Andalusian girls in the marsh wall. Yes.
And yes, the big lie is that everything dies every day, like your body decaying from the inside, like the sound of you forever slipping down a river into an endless ocean.
And how he kissed me under the Moorish wall. And I thought, well, as well him as another. And then I asked him if my eyes to ask again, yes. And then he asked me.
The sound of emptiness, the sound of not existing at all, in the minds of haunted memories. But that time we had together ended so quickly after it started, and I never called to say goodbye.
Would I? Yes, to say yes, my mountain flower. I put my arms around him. First I put my arms around him, yes, and drew him down to me so he could feel my breasts all.
I never even called and said hello. There was no ending, but an ending absent an ending, without a haunting forever. But how can life be a series of hauntings that escalates into the cemeteries are so crowded with ghosts we ignore and despise? How can I get back to something?
My breasts all perfume, yes. And his heart was going like mad. And yes, I said, yes, I will, yes.
How can I get back to something that ended without an ending? How do I even know you thought of me? Maybe your tumor replaced my memory. How can I get back? How do you get back? How do I know? How?
James Joyce.
After reading his final tweet, and before my search for the perfect sentence, I navigated to Jimmy's Facebook page. No avatar there, just a smiling face surrounded by his wife and 2 kids, both boys, a 2-year-old and a newborn. Most of his posts were about his illness, positive reports from the front lines of the battle with cancer. I always hated that phrase, battle with cancer, as if the doctors could give you boxing gloves and a sword, as if it was a fair fight. I read all the comments made under his updates.
You got this, dude. Heart emoji.
Thinking of you. Praying hands emoji.
That cancer doesn't have a chance. Boxing glove emoji.
We're gonna kick that cancer's ass. Fuck cancer. Boxing glove emoji.
You and your family are in my prayers. You and your family are in
Praying hands emoji.
Or
is it a high five?
I wondered what would happen to Jimmy's Facebook page and did a quick Google search. Facebook has over 1 billion users and approximately 10,000 of them die every day. Assuming Facebook eventually falters in popularity, dead profiles will outnumber living ones as soon as 2065. How will our online ghosts haunt us? With a phantom poke? A slight server error indirectly creates a like where no like should be? Will the dead comment on stupid political memes your uncle will undoubtedly make during election season? Will there one day be an online cemetery devoted to burying your loved ones' profiles? A designated place to visit their Facebook rants, their Twitter shitposts, their Instagram reels, their online personas vast and varied as they may be? Herman Cain died on July 30th, 2020 due to complications stemming from COVID-19, a virus that swept the planet until it became a global pandemic. 2 weeks after his death, Cain composed political tweets. Less than a month after dying of this disease, Cain's account tweeted a message downplaying the very virus that killed him.
It looks like the effects of this virus may not be as severe as the mainstream media would like us to believe.
Herman Cain was dead, but he didn't want you to think that the thing that killed him was very serious. His body was gone, but his agency lived on, and his agency wanted you to know that what killed him didn't matter. It wasn't as serious as the mainstream media would like you to believe. Just look at him.
He's still tweeting
after all. With thousands of people dying from a pandemic, digital funerals became more commonplace. Social media ghosts haunted us all with far more frequency. Thousands of dead people with profiles still alive, just sitting there, waiting. Words of the dead, right where you left them. There were separate ceremonies conducted to silence digital ghosts. Zoom funerals culminating in the deletion of accounts as people took turns reading statuses. Cameras off to hide the crying. Screens blipping out of existence at the end as everyone logged out in quick succession. This wasn't commonplace when Jimmy first died, though. Back then, the internet still felt like the possibility of eternal life, of Timothy Carey's dream of the eternal man. The dead are easy to ignore when they can't post pictures of their vacations. Hey, Jimmy. It's good to see you. You look good. They told me you might be able to hear me. I really don't know what we're doing here. It's been so long. I don't know if you remember me, frankly. We were so close once. When Jimmy died, he felt peace. Jimmy wasn't angry with me. Remember Jam Forever? Long time. I mean, it's probably silly me coming here. Last thing you need if you're trying to get well, right? While Jimmy was dying, he wasn't wondering why I hadn't visited, despite the fact that I lived less than a mile away. Despite the fact that he and his family had traveled to Boston for the excellent health care, which made visiting and comforting him more convenient for me. I heard you named it. Tried to humanize it a little, the tumor. Larry. Nice name. It's so perfect. So Jimmy. I heard you've been wandering around your house talking to yourself before checking out what was going on with the doctors. I responded to one of his posts on Facebook saying I'd try to visit. It didn't matter. Jimmy was too focused on finding the perfect sentence before the end. The right mixture of words he could pour his soul into, a string of syllables that assured all his pain was worth it. I remember watching you dance that one time on stage. ballet. I couldn't believe how graceful you were. I remember you playing bass, too, your hair hanging in your eyes as you looked down at your hands. I wanted to be you so badly. I wanted to. I think I might have loved you. Did you love me too? Did you This is fiction, of course. He could have died angry at me, wondering why I hadn't visited, but it's doubtful that through all his pain he'd be thinking of me. Narcissistic, even. And isn't narcissism the silent master of death anyway? When someone we love dies, we cry, we grieve, we convince ourselves of our related importance to the departed. But were we important to them? How important? Does it matter now that they're gone? Why didn't we connect? Why didn't I meet you? Why didn't I say goodbye? Why didn't I tell you that I think I'm...
Jean-Paul Sartre, at Sartre. 9th of May, 1944. We are in hell, and I will have my turn.
After watching The Passion of Joan of Arc one night, we smoked and Jimmy extinguished his cigarette against the side of his house and tossed it towards the woods, a small orange fleck spiraling through the dark.
Why do you think she did it? Joan, do you think she really had visions? Really talked to God through the archangels?
I shook my head, but Jimmy was still looking up at the endless dark.
Either way, imagine having that conviction. Imagine believing in something that much.
The darker the night,
Jimmy shook his head.
What do we have to believe in?
brighter the stars.
It spat into the night, defiant like he could huck a loogie into the heavens.
The deeper the grief,
And splatter the face of the Almighty.
the closer is God. At Dostoevsky.
In 1867, a jar was found in a Paris pharmacy with the inscription, "Remains found under the stake of Joan of Arc, Virgin of Orleans." They consisted of a charred human rib, carbonized wood, a piece of linen, and a cat femur, explained as the practice of throwing black cats under the pyre of witches. In 2006, a forensic scientist was authorized to study the relics. Carbon-14 tests and various spectroscopic analyses were performed, and the results determined that the remains came from an Egyptian mummy from the 6th to the 3rd century BC. Nobody knows who it was. A pharaoh lost to time.
G. Elliott, at M. Ann Evans, February 1st, 1859. Our dead are never dead to us until we have forgotten them. They can be injured by us. They can be wounded. They know all our penitence, all our aching sense that their place is empty, all the kisses we bestow on the smallest relic of their presence. George Eliot.
After spitting, Jimmy looked at me and laughed.
At least we believe in each other, right?
Just don't expect me to burn at the stake, I said.
Despite being convicted of heresy, she was given sacrament and embraced a processional crucifix from the nearby church before her hands were bound. She was tied to a plaster column and burned to death. As the flames engulfed her, she cried out her last words in the form of a prayer. Jesus.
Why the kitchen sink? This idiom originates from the late 19th century when the term was everything but the kitchen stove. Why the kitchen sink? This later evolved to the sink version. The French equivalent to this saying is the New York newspaper, the Syracuse Herald, everything but the walls. Walls make sense because they are enjoy the experience, and this might be why kitchen stove was chosen to get out. Kitchen sinks are also work for this reason. Bird cages. It is possible that the sink version caught on because it is the term was popularized. The sink version caught on because it is an example of assonance when describing an I sound is repeated in kitchen sink. They threw everything they had at rhythm in kitchen the stove version. In fact, they threw everything they had at us, including the kitchen sink.
What is the origin of the saying, everything but the kitchen sink?
The term everything but the kitchen sink means almost everything. $44 billion. Let that sink in.
Poison pen.
Gotta keep the lights on somehow. How about $8?
75% of shares. Yes, sir.
Diet.
Salute emoji.
Interesting.
He's fired.
Yes, sir.
Examples of use. Do you really need all of those things? You have packed everything but the kitchen sink.
There is no room in my garage. My husband has stored everything but the kitchen sink in there.
There's no room for a car. Keep the lights on. My husband has stored everything but the kitchen sink in there. The Chinese supermarket markets are amazing. You can buy everything but the kitchen sink. In fact, you can buy
My friend Jimmy died of cancer in January, and I found his profile scrolling through Twitter. By July, Twitter was dead too. Margaret Sanger realized what was being done to her name and image after her death. She plotted her revenge. She thought of a card she'd received after Peggy's death, a sympathy card, the drawing of a dove on the front, sent from a woman in Kansas. The woman assured Sanger that Peggy was being embraced by Mother Mary at the gates of heaven, and that it wasn't too late to repent, that her tragedy was clearly a warning from above. Divine justice, the perfect sentence for someone playing God and attempting to stop the miracle of childbirth. She'd kept the card, an important reminder about the type of good people she was trying to serve. Many simply didn't want her help. They would have child after child until their bodies distorted and fell apart. And all she was trying to do was tell them it didn't have to be this way. Present other alternatives. It did not matter. Their suffering was the way of their Lord. This is my baby, this is my body, this is my blood. She was a monster in their eyes. But she still deserved grace and salvation. An important distinction. They didn't hate her. They hated her work and what it represented. But now that she was dead, there was no sympathy and no sympathy card. There was no knowledge, only the antithesis of that concept. A void, a black hole of cruelty, all to prove some non-existent point, to soil her life's work, twist it into pure ugliness, an aborted truth. The racism linked to Sanger's image wasn't entirely false. She had been a white woman born in 1879. Her racism was everyone's racism of that time. That didn't excuse it, but it was true. It did not matter to these zealots. Where they once forgave her and sent her cards, their beliefs now filled them with such hatred they'd rather choose to spread ignorance, misinformation, and stupidity rather than attempt to express understanding or compassion.
So be it, then.
It wouldn't just be versions of her split and distorted, propped up with just the right amount of legitimacy for people to believe. It would be everything. She couldn't crawl after these distorted versions of herself. She couldn't push them back into her dead body. She could no longer find peace, but she could haunt the world and create misinformation of her own. She could distort everything and create nothing but chaos, presenting uncertainty as certainty. There would be no contraception for misinformation. This is what the world wanted. Overpopulation. Overpopulation of people, overpopulation of truth. Overpopulation until the zealots choked on their own self-righteous lies.
George Orwell at John Freeman. The 8th of June, 1949. 2 + 2 = 5.
When I finally watched the bootleg copy of The World's Greatest Sinner, I realized Jimmy had compiled all the versions of the film Timothy Carey had recut in his lifetime into one DVD, each with a brief disclaimer at the beginning, noting key differences. Every cut of the film was vastly different from the last. The setup remained the same, but otherwise, the only constant was the reconfirmed belief that death wasn't real, and that man had the ability to be their own gods, that the Eternal Man Party would prove the Almighty wrong.
The Word of God.
Carey says at one point in the original theatrical cut, then spits into the earth in front of a crowd of soon-to-be converts.
What good are words from a mute? I got words you can hear.
The theatrical cut had no scenes with Margaret Sanger. The second cut features her disturbing love scene with Carey. In the third cut, her scenes are extended. She meets with Carey long after their love scene, marching with an army of clones behind her, telling Carey that they will fight by his side, joining him in the battle with the Almighty. But at the end of the film, Carey is alone. Not even God shows up to smite him. He waits and waits, and the film drags on endlessly until he falls to his knees and begs for an ending, begs for an answer, begs for the good word, any word from on high that will prove him right, prove him wrong, prove that it's not all for nothing. The church crumbles around him. The earth opens up under his feet, and black holes of emptiness spread throughout the frame. Finally, the film itself seems to burn and distort around Carey's twisted, anguished face.
It is accomplished.
I watched version after version of the film at once, trying to keep track of all the strange variations. With each cut, Sanger had a larger role. Her name soon appeared in the credits, small roles at first, grip, camera operator, but eventually as editor, and finally as director. In that version, when Carey challenges the Almighty to a duel at the end of the film, it's Sanger who shows up to smite him.
You really think you're a god, don't you?
Her eyes turn white. Her army of clones mass around her, appearing seemingly from nowhere.
No. I made a mistake.
Tu cherches la phrase parfaite?
Carey cries, shaking his head violently.
I don't understand you.
Tu es coupable.
And with that, the film cuts to black. But we hear Carey on the soundtrack still, whimpering and crying in the darkness. The film stretches on like that, but for hours. Total darkness, nothing to see, nothing at all, only the sad, defeated cries of Timothy Carey.
Oh, God, why? Oh, God, why? Oh, God, why? Oh, God, why? God, why? Oh, God, why?
I let the film play for a few minutes, then fast-forwarded to find out how long it went on like that. I fell asleep before reaching the end. When I woke up, the audio was still going. The picture's still dark. It reminded me of Carey's desperate cries at the end of Paths of Glory. Before his character is executed, he sobs to himself uncontrollably. Carey had improvised his pleas for salvation, and Kirk Douglas felt like he was upstaging the other actors so much, he implored Stanley Kubrick to fire Carey. Kubrick refused, but told Carey to tone it down. When the film was over, Jimmy was sobbing and he didn't speak. He didn't even smoke, which was rare for him. He sat in his chair, silent. Then he stood up, rewound the tape, and began the film again. When I woke to the sound of Carey still crying from the final cut of The World's Greatest Sinner, Carey's crazed avatar from Jimmy's Twitter account was on my computer screen. I've been searching for the perfect sentences while watching the different cuts of the film. The cries intensified from my TV speakers, and I realized they sounded similar to Jimmy's from the night we watched Paths of Glory. I wondered if they sounded like his cries the night he died, or the nights leading up to his death. Oh, please, please, no more, Carey cried. On my computer screen, a fresh tweet from Jimmy_B43 appeared.
James Belford, Jimmy_B43, 3 seconds. Oh, please. Please, no more.
Where is everyone? Where are you? Why did you leave me like this?
James Belford at Jimmy_B43, 2 seconds. Where is everyone? Where are you? Why did you leave me like this?
This can't be this. I can't.
See? Please.
Please, God.
Please end this.
I can't listen anymore. I can't listen.
I don't want to be left here like this.
Dear Jesus.
I can't listen anymore. I can't do anything about this. There's only one thing I can do. I don't want to. I don't want to abandon you again, but
something.
My selfishness prevented me from seeing you before. My selfishness will prevent me from seeing you again.
The moral law within me.
At Jimmy_B43, 4 seconds. I was a flower of the mountain. Please, Jeff.
Oh my God, oh God, oh please, no, please, no. I saw you standing in the stream before the water rose and rushed you away with a rose in your hair at the girl you dated who rolled her eyes whenever you tried to sing in the car. And you asked me what kind of beloved can't stand music from the mouth of a lover. And I'd stopped listening but pieced together what you said later. And yes, it was the first time I stopped listening, but no, I haven't been listening all my life, only to myself. But no, you say, and hugged me against the wall at JCPenney's and whispered there, might as well be forgiveness. I filled the void. But can you forgive the girl who hates the sound of singing? I asked you in my eyes to sing them again in divine harmony, to forgive me in your endless splendor. And when you opened your mouth, the only sound that came out was the sound of rushing water, which brought your blood and body to the endless ocean. No, there is no music. Once you stop listening, and there will always be music to remind you there is no more music. No more music. But yes, there will always be water to save you and drown you and damn you. But no, it's too late. It's too late. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh my God, I'm sorry. Oh my God, I'm foul.